Oh, hello. Making last minute light adjustments. I'm Scott Hall, psychic medium.
I'm Janet Raftis, also a psychic medium, energy healer.
And I'm a channel too, and I'm fixing my shirt. And today we're going to talk about, and today's the first day we thought about this. Whoa, turn that volume down. Who's that guy talking? So, hey Shannon, hope everything's all right in North Carolina.
Hey Shannon.
So today, this is the first time I've had Janet on my Facebook Live as my guest. So welcome.
Hi,
Nice.
It's good to be here.
I'm glad to have you on.
I'm trying to share. That's why I'm looking down right now. I'm sharing this to my timeline.
Yeah, so today we wanted to talk about ghost stories for everyone since it's almost Halloween. And in case you didn't know. And so Janet and I both clear homes together. And we have a business called Life and Home Harmony. And we have encountered many actual ghosts by doing that. Good to see you too, Shannon. And so first of all, let's answer some of the questions, I guess. Let's say, what is a ghost? I'm going to let you take that one.
Okay, so a ghost is a spirit that hasn't crossed over. We like to actually call them earthbound spirits in our field. They're just spirits that for one reason or another, usually out of fear, haven't crossed over to the light, as we sometimes call it.
Fear or the sense of purpose sometimes too, right?
Yeah, sometimes too.
This directive that they think they've got to get something done, very human directive.
Yeah, so they're still sort of stuck in their ego a little bit, which is why, sometimes they can be a little volatile or
pesky.
Pesky, yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it, they died, and a lot of times some of them don't understand that they died, or didn't want to die, or didn't finish a task or whatever. So they can be unhappy. Whereas one of the questions I had too is, what is the difference between a ghost and someone that's like crossed over? What's the crossed over side look like? Well, the people that have crossed over, meaning like they went to the light or whatever your religious beliefs are, those people are just all about love. And when we connect to them as psychic mediums, they always talk about, they're more concerned about the person, that our client who's there to talk to them. They're more concerned about that person than them. They're like, we're fine up here, everything's fine. So a ghost, they're usually not fine. There's usually something.
They're agitated.
Yeah, agitated or whatever. Yeah.
Still sort of clinging to earthly life, but out of a very wayward way.
Wayward. I'm not commenting on that. So, what does it mean to cross over a ghost? So, that's kind of our task if we're brought into someone's home and they do have a ghost. And by the way, most people don't have ghosts. Yeah. Most people have what's called residual energy. But we're talking about ghosts today. So if they have a ghost, we do try to cross it over. We basically, it's like having a conversation with a regular human. There's no difference. You just have a conversation with them and explain to them that they can move on, kind of show them that they can. First thing they notice is that they can talk to us, which is different, and that we're open to communicating with them. And then we usually have some sort of conversation that leads to them saying, "Oh, okay, I can go there," and then they move on. Is that a good description, you think?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we help them resolve things. So sometimes they're scared to move on, or they don't understand moving on.
Let's get to our first story. It wasn't on the list. I wrote a list of the stories, but what about my very first home clearing I went with you on, and there was a man, excuse me, who had been murdered. He was actually not a ghost. A man was murdered by Civil War soldiers, and a black man was murdered, and a slave. And it was just a horrible thing. It was like hit with a rifle. And I saw it, and you experienced it in your own way. We combined stories. We're like, oh my God, we're seeing the same thing. It's so cool, scary and tragic, but cool at the same time. And then I was standing next to the building, and all of a sudden I started crying, and I realized there was another slave there, and he was so upset that he had done nothing to protect his friend from getting killed. And so Janet said, why don't you come help? She tried to cross him, and she said, why don't you go? I think he needs a man. And so I went and talked to him and told him that, it's okay what he did, because he would have been killed himself, and that wouldn't have been too cool, and that it was okay. There was no shame in what he did. and he moved on.
He did, yeah.
And
he needed a little bit of healing and reassurance.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what we do, is provide that for these spirits when they are feeling a little stuck or when they're hesitant to move on. Hi Tanya, hi Jessica.
Yeah, they're just like regular people who got stuck in some way. There's another one. Let's just get to a bloody one. I think we should talk about a bloody one.
Okay, honey.
Okay, so we don't talk about this one much.
Which one is?
Yeah.
The
lady, yeah. So, did you psychically know what I was going to say? No, I talked about it in the car on the way over. But this is the first time that I realized I had what's clair is it when I feel the clairsentience. Yeah, so clairsentience. This is the first time I discovered that I had clairsentience,
which is psychically feeling something.
Yeah, so I feeling it on your body. So we went to a friend's house who was having problems, and there was a ghost there, and I felt her head caved in. Like I could feel it. I felt like my head was pressed in. I could feel it on my own head. And what we do when we clear homes is that we both see things and we kind of compare notes and create a full picture. We realize she was murdered like blunt force trauma style, and but may not have lived actually where we were. She just kind of
wandered in.
Wandered in. But that was pretty cool to experience that. It was a hell of a headache,
and she was easy to cross over, if I remember correctly. She was ready. Like sometimes they're really ready to go. Sometimes they're kind of like actually wandering around, trying to find someone who can help them even.
Right.
And she was one of those.
We can talk about one that was a little difficult. That was the angry ghost.
Sure.
I like labeling them, giving them names, of course.
Likes to name them.
I name them and then write blogs about them usually. So, and if you want to go to scotthallpsychic.com and you can look at my blogs and some of these ghost stories are there. So there was one, we were doing a little apartment, and a little basement apartment, and there was some dude there that was just kind of mad and just didn't feel good. It wasn't like evil. He was just a man that just
and the whole apartment felt angry. I mean, you step into the apartment and the first thing that you felt when you got there was anger. And so it was a very pervasive energy, even though he wasn't like hurting her,
right?
But being in the energy of anger all the time is super uncomfortable.
He was super like male, like I'm a guy and I'm here, and she was a single woman that was staying there. And by the way, I want to answer real quick Kelby's question. You had a headache dealing with her, talking about the one with the blunt force trauma, or she was a headache. Well, I got a headache from the feeling of her.
He was feeling her headache.
Yeah, I was feeling her headache.
From where her head got smashed in.
Yeah. So the cool thing about the angry guy is that when I felt like, I'm going to really check in because he's a guy, maybe I can get to him a little better. So I try to do that, just see if I can talk to him like a man or whatever that is to him.
Man to man.
Man to man. And what came up was that he missed his mom and he had a tragic upbringing. I don't know if she died young or something. Something happened where he showed me his bike and his mom. It was so left field. That's when you know you're getting a really strong psychic hit. When you know you couldn't have made it up, you couldn't imagine. Because when you're thinking angry ghost, you're going to think about the reasons why he is angry and that he's a bad man and the bad things. You can just think negatively. Instead, he shows me this wonderful moment where he missed his mom and everything, and so then we just showed him his mom, and his mom was waiting for him, and he went.
And
so
just went.
It was so cool.
It was actually super easy to cross him over.
I'm feeling him a little bit now, the feelings of that
he
event.
Was like really. He seemed like he was going to be really resistant to it.
Yeah, I thought.
And then as soon as we had that experience, and I saw it too.
Yeah.
We saw very similar things but differently.
Yeah.
And then he just went.
Yeah, and so in case you're wondering how we see. So we see in our mind's eye. Sometimes it can be projected. When I get to the final story or one of the stories, I'll talk more about that. But sometimes it can be projected in the physical, but we still know it's on our mind's eye. And so most of the time when we communicate with ghosts, we have our eyes closed and we're in a meditative state. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's when we're sitting around, we're burning Epsom salts and we're sitting there and we're conversing with the ghosts that way.
Yeah.
What about the bookkeeper one? That was interesting.
She was super easy and she wasn't angry. She was just like, intent and focused. She had like a mission. That's why she was staying
Well,
behind.
explain what she looked like, what she was wearing with the
Oh yeah,
ruffles
she
and
was
everything.
like from the 1800s. So the house was no, maybe early 1900s, right? The house was a little over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And she was wearing like a dress from back then with the long sleeves and a high collar, ruffles. Yeah, and she was real. You know how like the women used to have like real straight posture.
Oh, she had gloves on.
And she had gloves on.
Yeah. And she had a ledger, and she was like, I remember she was holding it down for me, like, I'll go if you take the ledger and you take control. And the interesting thing, so the ledger I felt like had like, list of what she had to buy at the store and the money, and like she just kept the house organized.
Stuff. Yeah.
Like she kept books of the housekeeping. And what the funny thing is that this is a couple, a friend of ours, and the couple, the woman chose that as her room, and it was a woman's room, like the ghost was a woman, and she ruled that room. So that was really interesting. Like when they walked through the house, they're like, okay, this is the house, this is the room we're going to put the ladies' stuff in. It was a ladies' room, and it wasn't painted that color.
It was all just, like very feminine antiques in there.
Well, I'm saying when they looked at it when it was an empty house.
Yeah, they saw it.
That they chose that as woman's, and then we found out, well, there's a reason why you chose that to be the woman's room, because it literally is. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and she didn't want to go until he took the ledger from her.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to make sure that the house was still going to be cared for.
Yeah, and that
was the only thing that was keeping her here.
Yeah, and that's a case of that having this certain directive, this certain idea that I must accomplish this before I go do this, and then we kind of let them off the hook on that. What else we have? Oh, Civil War. Let's talk about Civil War soldiers a little bit. What do we usually see with that?
Well, it just depends. We've seen different things. I mean, sometimes we've seen...
and we're in Atlanta, and it is gone with the wind as far as history, so there's been a lot of battles here in Atlanta.
Yeah, so with the... I remember one time, well, this was residual energy that I saw, not actually earthbound spirits. Haley!
Oh, Lee's on. Hey, Lee!
But it was like the residual energy, which sometimes residual energy can look or feel like an earthbound spirit, but what it is like a loop, almost like a film. So what I was seeing was a loop of 3 soldiers walking like shoulder to shoulder with their guns up, and they were just kind of walking, and they were stuck in a loop, this residual energy was. So I just saw the same thing play over and over and over again, like an old time movie almost. And
so and it feels like that, like battle zones have that kind of thing, because there's so much, the energy's so intense, so emotional, and it's kind of like they're just doing it, and they just keep doing it. Like even if there's no actual personality there anymore, there's the activity is still being done. It's extreme. I mean, so many people died. I mean, so many people died there.
Yeah.
And we went to a house once. Dovetail into the Chickamauga house that we did. It was, and that's one of the biggest battles, bloodiest battles in the Civil War. And it was used as a field hospital, as a lot of homes were, just because they would just drag the wounded to the nearest home. So this home was used that way, and it was just, you could just feel that there was blood spilled here. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it except that blood was spilled there. Shannon has a question. How can you tell when it's residual versus non-residual, and if it's residual, what do you have to do? Well, that would be another story. Going into home clearing, which we're not going to do. We're just going into ghost stories right now. But we could.
Quickly.
Okay, go ahead quickly.
Yeah, so with the residual energy, you will clear it like you clear regular energy. It's a little bit harder to clear sometimes, but I usually do it with visualizations and light energy, and it doesn't have like any intelligence to it. It's more like you're watching a film. That's how you can kind of tell.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't talk back to you.
Yeah, it's just like you're looking at something and seeing it on repeat or hearing it on repeat, but there's no emotionality to it. There's no intelligence to it. Whereas with an earthbound spirit, you'll definitely there's some sort of emotional and intelligent energy there.
Yeah, it's a lot more information comes when it's actual person. A lot more information comes through. That's for sure. And
hi, Kristen. Hi, Heather.
and so we were at this Chickamauga house, and I remember we had great confirmation there too. We were sitting on the front porch, and we had cleared the place of I don't know, we just started to do the clearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you were saying, like, do you see them coming out of the house? Like, so in our mind's eye, there are people just coming out of the house onto the front porch.
Out of it.
And then I said, do you see the girl? And I don't know, somehow we talk, and we don't give each other the exact information, but we confirm later. But I saw a blonde girl in a white dress, and she saw the same thing.
Yeah,
and she
he said,
came
do you
up,
see the girl? And I said, yeah, the little girl in the little blonde girl in the white dress.
Yeah, yeah. So she came and put her hand on my back before she left, and we just cleared a whole bunch of people at that point. So that was really cool.
And that was like, we did that like a mass clearing where we were able to
sometimes.
just basically take them all up at the same time.
And there was another one where there's Native Americans in a house, a bunch of them that kept going in that boy's room.
Yeah.
We cleared all of them. Like,
That's
we walked
right.
into the room and we meditated once again, and in our mind's eye we see all these Native Americans standing there, and the kid had said there were people in this room.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, we see them, but there's definitely people here.
Definitely
They're
people
friendly, but they had like a trail of tears.
Mm-hmm.
That house was like near a trail or something where people would go by during the, I guess, the Trail of Tears time. I don't know if that's accurate, but
that's what it felt like. It was like just like it was like an endless line of spirits moving.
Yeah.
And residual energy. I think it was probably a mix of both. But were we going to talk about the soldiers at all at Chickamauga?
Oh, I kind of went over that. Go ahead and go back to that.
Well, I mean, mostly there was a lot of residual energy. Yeah. But it was the residual energy because this was a field hospital.
Oh, yeah, with the land.
Yeah. So, but we could see that there were, soldiers like laid out. There were the imprints of these soldiers laid out, and it felt like just blood everywhere. And then the land.
Yeah, the land said. Well, it just felt like people were like a lot of trauma was from people trying to hold in their life, like trying to keep their lives, like limbs. I don't know if you've read about the Civil War, but they would just take limbs off people, and the weapons they used would just blow holes in people, and it was just real brutal. Basic and brutal, and so they would amputate often, and so they were just trying to keep their bodies. So it was about blood and bodies. That's what came up, and the land said, "Hey, you guys." You built another house there. This wasn't the original house there. They're like, you built another house there. That's blocking a lot of this stuff. You need to open the windows and let the air, let earth cleanse this place. Cleanse it, because that's what we do all the time. I said blood is shed all the time on the earth, and the earth cleanses it. Now, when we have a battle, that's a bunch of blood in one place, and it needs some other stuff. But the earth can do its part. So that was really cool. That was like the most dramatic instance for me of the earth talking to us.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
I had no idea. Now when we go look at homes, we go out in the yard all the time, and basically you can tell, unless there's something wrong with the earth, which could be not that the earth's got the problem, but humans created a problem that creates some sort of problem out in the nature, out in the yard. But unless there's that, the nature always wants to kind of come in the house, because if you left the house, what would happen? You came back 10 years later, there'd be vines, and nature would take it back over and just kind of cleanse it naturally. You want to talk about the dunce cap demon now, or do you want to talk about? Oh, I had this other one about the entity that follows, the one we did not clear in a large warehouse that we did not clear up, goes unnamed.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to talk about scary stuff because it's Halloween.
Okay, talk about the scary thing. Yeah, that one is really
right, there's
scary.
one that we have not cleared. We actually looked at clearing it. I won't go into the details of that, but it's in a place where it's an old warehouse, let's put it that way, in Atlanta, and fairly well known. And it has an entity in it for sure that is definitely not friendly.
That is not friendly.
And I've walked in there a couple times, and when we walk through, it projects its energy out very far. It's a very large set of buildings, and it follows you. You could feel it on your back, like it's following you, going, just get the hell out of here. The thing is,
and it's
just
been known
nasty.
to follow people off the property.
It has.
Yes. You might not be remembering.
No, I'm not. Oh, yes, that's true. Oh, God. Yeah. Like, if you let this thing scare you, it will follow you wherever. The same holds true of most things. Like, if you're scared, and these things that dwell on that eat off of that energy, they will grow stronger, and they will follow you. They will do that. Goat farm people are answering. We're not going to answer yes, by the way. I will say it's not the goat farm, but we're not going to answer from now on yes or no, because we are like, it would not be good business.
But if you had ever driven by it, you would know.
Yes, the goat farm has relatively good energy. A lot of artists there that put out good energy and good work. But anyway, yeah. So are we on to the dunce cap demon? Or? What should we do next?
Sure. I mean, we should talk a little bit about how an entity is different than an earthbound
spirit. Oh yeah. We do some of the questions. That's right. How you talk about that and how an entity is different from a ghost.
Because an entity could be a ghost, right, as it could be any spirit, right? Any spirit can be an entity, but when we're referring to an entity here, we're referring to it doesn't have like a specific. It's not an earthbound spirit. It's not an angelic entity. It's not a type of being that can be identifiable. It is more like an amorphous.
I guess another way of saying is that we use the word entity when we can't identify it directly as that is this or that.
Yeah, exactly.
And entity is kind of a catch-all, but usually also has a negative feel to it. Because if it's positive and you don't know what it is, we'll call it an angel. Right. No one complains about that.
But right, so this is like an amorphous form that is big and strong and pretty evil, and it has intelligence for sure, but it's not like an earthbound spirit. It's not something you could identify. You can communicate with it.
Oh, Sydney, we were talking about your clearing. Sydney's joined us.
We can get I lost my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
We can get information from it, and we can communicate with it. But it's not like it's not like you're talking to a person.
Well, let's talk about the dunce cap demon then.
Let's do it.
Obviously, I'm dying to get to that one.
You are. That's his favorite.
My favorite one. So this is an example of I call it the dunce cap demon, but really we don't feel it was a demon. It maybe could become one at some point, but it was definitely very negative and scary. Mm-hmm. We walked. It was the second home clearing I went with you.
Yeah, the early ones were like
because we had to set our boundaries. We've set boundaries since, saying that we don't want to.
Yeah, I had boundaries. Remember, I told you, I said this is the worst thing I would ever get to deal with.
Yeah, but when we haven't had to even get close to that really since.
The one we just talked about.
Yeah, that's true. But we didn't get the job.
Do it.
It's there.
Anyway.
So he worked some magic, didn't he? Anyway. He's like, I'm not going to get these two people in my place. So the dunce cap demon. So we walk into this small loft apartment. Yeah, very small. And the second we walked in there, it felt like something was pushing against us. Not an entity. It just felt like we had to push into the air. Mm-hmm. Like the air was thick, and it got thicker into the back right corner where the bathroom was and where the child's room was, and there was an armoire there. And then it also had an odor to it, acrid, would that be the right word?
That's a good word.
And just not pleasant. And it felt like, to both of us, it felt like if this entity, and this was an entity, if this entity became any stronger, it would be able to throw things, to manipulate the physical quite easily. It just felt, because it was like, how could it get any thicker than this? It's going to become like physical.
Yeah.
And I was...
It was working on it, by the way.
Yeah,
it was trying.
It was definitely working on it. And we had the client with us, which we don't do anymore for many reasons, but one of them is so we can discuss things. So I couldn't discuss what was going on. But I gave the entity a time. I said, let me see who you are, thought that thought just for a second. And then I'm looking at the armoire, and my mind's eye is projecting him. I see him. He's 8 feet tall, above the armoire, with a dunce cap on, all green, in like a clown suit, and a big face with a mouth like this big with jagged teeth, like going And just standing there going like this. That looks good, doesn't it?
It was an accurate
He was like,
representation.
and just but not moving, which made it even creepier. And I had to walk by him while the client's there and not go like, "Hey, dude," I just had to act like everything was fine. But I knew he couldn't touch me. I knew he couldn't hurt me. And then later on, I gave him an opportunity to talk to me. And is it okay to cuss on this? It's my channel. Anyway, he said, "Get the fuck out!" Like yelled it in my ear. It was just crazy. And I was trying to tell Janet, but Janet was busy with the customer. And the customer was saying, "Well, I see a man in a hat." And I'm like, "Yeah, what does he look like?" And she described a different man was wearing all black and like it looked like a man, but kind of scary, all like in shadow with a men's hat, like maybe a fedora on. And I was like, "Oh, that ain't the hat I'm seeing." I was like, "Oh, it's not the dude I'm seeing." But I couldn't say anything until later.
So some entities can show themselves differently to different people for various reasons, right? To sort of manipulate the impression that the person gets.
Yeah, so he didn't actually have a form. He was just showing different things.
Well, he did, because remember, and this is a really interesting case, so coming back to ghost stories, is that he had sort of this energy, this entity, who was more of an entity, not an earthbound spirit, had taken over the energy of an earthbound spirit, had sort of possessed the earthbound spirit. And part of what we had to do when we cleared it was we had to separate out. Like, so as soon as, so I did the clearing then, because that was right when Scott was just starting with me. And I was able to weaken the entity by pulling basically the energy of the spirit out, of the earthbound spirit out, and crossing him over.
You crossed over the ghost part of it, and then that made him weak.
And that weakened him.
Yeah. But he also, the story had a lot more to it, that we both saw that there was some sort of like slaughtering going on, and I thought the only thing I could think of is like Native Americans or something got all these animals together, all this cattle, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. We just knew that she got killing fields. We just knew something bad happened in the back where there's now a big parking lot, and it had tainted the land. And on top of that, then there's a railroad there, and there was a lot of accidents with the railroad, and we think that the ghost that she cleared, that ghost that was attached to the entity, was a man who had gotten injured at the yard or whatever it was there, and who had died there. And then later on we find out by doing some other work with other people that there was a mass killing of cattle. I guess we don't know if they were diseased or whatever, but there was a mass killing of cattle in that area. And so we got confirmation that what we had picked up was correct. And so just know that's an example too of the land getting tainted, and then humans being affected by that tainting, and just bad breeds more bad. And by the way, the woman's next door neighbor was an a-hole, and his, once we cleared the entity, and we cleared the Dunce-Cap demon and the ghost that was attached to him, we could feel the guy's energy from the next door neighbor coming right through a closet. I mean, he was just part of the whole process. So negative attracts. Thank you. Negative, and it just keeps snowballing unless you get someone out to do some work.
Yeah.
So we just got a couple of minutes left. Was there anything else we wanted to hit?
Share the really sweet.
Oh yeah, we didn't do the sweet one.
Yeah, let's just share that and then wrap up. We'll end with like a really nice ghost story.
Right. Oh, I have to mention about Ouija boards. We're not for Ouija boards. They bring spirits in rather than get them out. Okay, go ahead. I had to mention that because I brought it up.
Okay. So we cleared a house where there was a spirit, an earthbound spirit in the basement who had hung himself, right?
Yeah, and we knew this prior to coming. We knew that a hanging had occurred. And the spirit was actually playing with the dogs in the house, and it was problematic for the owner. Yeah.
So we went in there and we started talking with the spirit, and he came and sat down with us, and he was really loving feeling. And Sydney, I can't believe I missed you talking about my house.
You can watch it later, Sydney.
It's about 5 minutes before you popped on. There was he was really sweet. He came and sat down with us, and
He was very feminine.
He was very feminine. So he was a gay man who had been, living in times when it was not acceptable to be gay, and he was afraid to cross over because he felt like he had been wrong, it had been sinful.
Yeah.
He felt a lot of shame around who he was.
Yeah, and he was surprised that he could talk to us and that we were so open with him and loving of him. He was really surprised by that. Yeah, we accepted him. He was like, he wanted to hang out with us.
Yeah.
And he touched both of us like such a soft
And it was
touch.
like loving. Like I
Very
don't know
loving.
that I've ever felt that.
No, it was loving.
Before.
I'm getting vibes off him right
Yeah.
now. He was I called him the gentle ghost. He's just so loving.
Yeah. And once we explained to him that everything would be okay and that he would be accepted and loved exactly as he was.
There's a San Francisco in heaven.
There
probably isn't.
There is. There doesn't even need
But
to
he
be.
was, we were telling him that that there's more people like him, and it was not some weird anomaly and he's strange or anything.
And he went once that conversation happened, he went very easily. He was ready to cross. So
Yeah,
it was nice.
It was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
He ended just in 30 minutes. That was perfect. Now we need to talk about some mentions about what we're doing. Go ahead and talk first.
What was I going to talk about?
You were going to talk about your women's circle.
Oh yeah, I have a women's circle. If you want to connect with the energies of the divine feminine, which are very powerful and loving energies, then I have monthly women's circles here in Atlanta, Georgia, and the next one is on November 20th. And I was going to share about my Peru retreat too.
Yeah.
Which I'm doing March 2020 with my girlfriend, our girlfriend, Ina Lucas, who channels a collective known as the Alchemists. And we're doing a sacred activation journey to Machu Picchu and other sacred sites in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And it's going to be
That's
awesome.
so cool. I'm so jealous. I'll be home making dinners. Anyway, I will be channeling Ave November 15th here at the Center for Love and Light. And Ave is the loving extraterrestrial that is my buddy and channel and helper. And he talks about love and gives unbelievable wisdom about our lives. So you can, if you come to the channeling, you can listen to what he has to say, and then he'll answer questions for you.
And Ave is awesome.
Yes.
He's really great. Hi, Alyssa.
All right, we're gonna go home and cook some dinner, and I hope y'all have a great evening and
a good Halloween.
And a great Halloween too. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.